My name is Lola Blevins, and I am the Outreach Director at CASA. CASA has been around since 1977, providing life-saving services to men, women, and children, and I include men because men are victims of domestic violence also.
My name is Mo Venuziu. I'm the Communications Manager for CASA. I help people understand the problem of domestic violence. Domestic violence is not an anger management issue or a mental health issue. It's something about someone exerting power and control over another. It's something that we're not used to dealing with, which means that we're often not equipped to get out of that situation on our own.
When you go into a home, you do not want to just automatically assume that the victim is going to be a female and the aggressor or abuser is going to be a male. And oftentimes you will find situations where it is not the male who has been the abuser. It has been the female, and we do work with that. So you do want to come in, you want to take your judgment, you want to set it aside before you ever walk through that door. Domestic violence is a pattern of behaviors. It's not a one-time incident, and that pattern of behaviors will not just be with the intimate partner, but it will oftentimes spill over to pets, to other people, and to the children in the home. I think there's a couple different things that you're looking for. The first one obviously is safety. A domestic violence call is the most dangerous call that you are ever going to go on. So you want to make sure that you as an EMT, that you are safe. And then at the second time you're looking at who else is in that room. Are there children in the room? Where is the victim? What's the dynamic that's going in that room? Because domestic violence is not just about violence. It's primarily about power and control. So when you come into the situation, you're looking to see, is that partner the one that's controlling all the conversation? Is that partner the one that's directing you where to stand and when to come in and what to do? If you're looking at that, you're seeing one person is in control, one person has all the other power, and the other person is the victim. No, because obviously if this is about power and control, then if the primary aggressor or the abuser is in the room with the victim, the first thing the victim is going to do is look to that abuser for permission to speak, and they are not going to feel free to speak. Also, anything they say could put them in more danger. So it's important to separate out the victim and the witnesses separately from the abuser. You want to do it creatively, you want to do it comfortably, because you don't want that primary aggressor or abuser to be on the defense and therefore put that victim in greater danger or the children that might be present. So very creatively, you might be able to say to the person that you're assuming is the abuser, would you mind coming over here? I just have a few questions I need to fill out on this record. And then they'll separate, and then the other EMT can go ahead and question the victim. You have to ask very directly, very compassionately, but you want to ask a direct question. Have you been hit? Are you afraid? Do you feel threatened in this relationship? You want to ask direct questions so that you'll get a direct answer. And it's important to understand when you're dealing with a victim, you're dealing with somebody who's been traumatized. They do not remember things sequentially. They are going to remember things in pieces. So you cannot assume because they are coming at you with pieces of information that what they're saying is either not true, not accurate. And the other thing you have to realize when you're dealing with victims who've been traumatized is you cannot judge the effect of the abuse by their affect, because many times they will have a flat affect, they've just totally numbed out. You cannot just judge that patient or that victim and say, this must not be bothering them that much. That victim knows that home as well as that abuser, and that victim knows that abuser better than anybody else. And you need to know if there are weapons in that home, and you need to have them separate when you ask that question. In the state of Florida, you are not mandated to report adult-to-adult abuse unless it involves special needs or an elderly person who's not cognitive, or it involves children. It's very important to give the respect to that victim to allow them to have the control over where that information goes and what's done with that information. They have lived with power and control. They have not had the freedom to make any decisions whatsoever. You coming in and saying to them, it's up to you what we do with this information, gives them that first glimmer of hope that they are going to be able to move on and to move out of this relationship. Leaving is the most lethal time in a domestic violence relationship. If there are children in the house, are they going to be able to take those children with them? Is there economically, because economic abuse is a part of domestic violence. Do they have any place to go? The shelters may be full. Maybe because of isolation, which is also another part of domestic violence, they've lost all contact with family or friends, or they may be afraid for their family and friends and they don't want to go there. On average, it can take 6 to 7 times for somebody to leave before they actually leave permanently. And I know it can be very frustrating. It's frustrating for the police department. It's frustrating for you as an EMT. It's often frustrating for us as a service provider. But the important thing to do is come every single time with the same amount of compassion, the same amount of care, and the same amount of commitment, because that lets that victim know we care, you're going to be believed, and we are here to help you. Let's show that person that we're very concerned for them. I'm concerned for your safety. As a professional, I feel like the best thing for you right now would be just to go to the hospital, let a doctor check it out. It does not have to go any further. You are going to be in control whether the police are ever involved or not. I just want to make sure that you're okay and that you're safe. Therefore, you're coming across as a person who's concerned, but not as a person who's laying down rules and having power and control over that individual. It's a child who's witnessed it, it's a child who's been harmed by it, it's a child who's present. And those are 3 very different things. If the child has been harmed in any way, if a weapon has been used, if you can see items were thrown that child might have been in danger, then you as an individual, as a mandated reporter, need to assess yourself and say, I feel like I need to report this. If it's the fact that the child has witnessed it, we want to be honest here. These 2 people have been in a relationship a long time. This is not the first time that child has witnessed it. You contacting CPI, having that child maybe go someplace that is different and strange and taken away from their mom at this time might be more traumatic to the child rather than letting the mom or the father, if he's the victim, decide what's going to happen to the child. And a very easy way to do that is just to say, is there somebody I could call? Maybe your mom, maybe a babysitter, maybe a friend could come by and pick up the kids. Oftentimes what you can say to that mom, like I said, if she's the victim or if it's the dad and he's the victim, is we've seen here that there has been possible and probable injury to the child, so we are mandated reporters. Why don't you make the call? I'll sit here next to you. We'll make that call together. Let the mom have that opportunity to self-report. Then you're empowering her to make the right decision as a mom. And most of the time, that's the decision they want to make. Part of assessing and screening for domestic violence is looking for explanations that are inconsistent with the injury. That is going to help you determine whether this has been a case where it's been domestic violence. On top of that, though, we have to go back to the fact that this victim is an adult and should be respected and have that final decision. Trust is being built. Maybe that victim won't leave this time, but then you don't leave there, you don't go call the police, you show them that you've given them the respect to trust. Maybe the next time you come, that little bit of trust will be built on, and they might reach out to you then for help. You want to leave them with the compassion. I'm sorry that this has happened to you. It should never have happened. You're not to blame. And the last thing you want to leave them with is that hope. And that idea behind that is to say you will be believed. So please take this. We want you to be safe. If you ever need help, call this number. Somebody will believe you. Somebody will be there to help you.
So you really want to let someone get to the point where they feel safe and comfortable and ready to make that decision. And you're helping them get there. And one of the simple ways you can do that is by providing a nail file that has CASA's hotline number on it. It's a nice simple way where they can think about it after you've left and decide, well, maybe I want to talk to somebody about this. Maybe they can offer me a little advice. Maybe I want to go to an emergency shelter, or maybe I want to get some help in the court system.
I would just tell them that they have the greatest opportunity in the world. Many times they are the first and only opportunity for somebody to get help. When they go in with an open mind, with a mind and an attitude of compassion and not judgment, it's going to open up that situation where that victim trusts them enough to place their life, and if their children are there, their children's lives in their hands, and that's important to know. And the last thing I would say, and I said it earlier in the training, safety, safety, safety. I cannot say that enough. You want to kind of be having your eyes always looking. You want to be alert. You want to be aware of everybody in that room and where everybody is at all times, because that is a very lethal situation there. So you do not want to turn your back on a situation and end up being hurt yourself. First thing the advocate is going to do is say, are you safe? Then they're going to ask you certain questions to see how lethal the situation is and if you are in danger. The second thing they're going to ask you then is if you have any other resources, a family member, somebody else you can go to, because even though we're the largest shelter in the state of Florida at 133 beds, we turn people away. Last year it was over 2,400 people had to be turned away because there was no space. If you do not qualify for the shelter, you can still receive the same services from CASA through our outreach department. So the advocate then will either transfer you to the outreach department if it's during the daytime, or they will give you a contact extension to call back the next day. And through that, then we are going to help you locate a safe place to go. Many times we've flown somebody, if it's a very lethal situation, out of the state. We've provided bus tickets. We've taken, and made sure that they have the opportunity to go to another shelter outside the county. Maybe this place isn't safe at all. Those are the kind of services we're going to do. First, we're going to look for your safety, and then we're going to look long term. With every person who contacts us here at CASA, whether it's through the phone, face-to-face, in some other way, we're going to do safety planning with them, because you need to assess the situation so that you can help them in practical ways. Do they have family and friends? Maybe they don't need to go to a shelter. Maybe somebody can just pick up a phone and call the mom and they can come and pick them up. Do they have money? It's an important thing to note with the taxi that CASA has an account with Yellow Cab. If they are in a situation where they do not have money and they want to leave that home, you can contact CASA. CASA will contact Yellow Cab. We have an account number. The Yellow Cab will pick the patient up, the victim up, take them to the police station, not to report it necessarily, but just as a safe place for a CASA advocate to come and meet them and then take them to the shelter.
Some of the services that CASA provides are a 24-hour confidential hotline, a 133-bed domestic violence center, outreach services, which do things like help you in the court system and support groups. And we also have a child's prevention program where we go into the schools and teach anti-violence and anti-bullying programs.